Greetings, friends in the Lord, and a happy Holy Week to you all. We are still moving, and we are on Wednesday of the Holy Week. We are meditating on the theme, the slavery of God. It appears strange to hear this theme, but then we are inspired by the size, the weight at which Jesus was measured through the price paid to betray him. 30 pieces of silver, just a little bit higher than that of the sale of Joseph by his brothers to the Ishmaelites, 20 pieces of silver. A little bit above the price of a slave. We are reading from Isaiah 50, verse 44 to 9, and Psalm 69, in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 26, 14 to 25. According to Paolo Cello, in a work called Manuscript found in Accra, defeat is for valiant. Only they will know the honor of losing and the joy of winning. I'm not here to tell you that defeat is a part of life. We all know that. Only the defeated know love, because it is in the realm of love that we fight our first battles and generally lose. I'm here to tell you that there are people who have never been defeated. They are the ones who never fought. They managed to avoid scars, humiliations, feelings of helplessness, as well as those moments when even warriors doubt the existence of God. The end of the quote. According to John's account about, like what we read yesterday, it was Jesus himself who dipped a morsel of bread and gave it to Judas. But according to the Synoptic Gospel, especially the one we are reading today from Matthew, as portrayed today, Judas himself dipped the morsel. And the reading goes this way: it is one of the 12 who is dipping bread into the bowl with me, indicating the answer to the question, who, Lord, will betray you? He's talking, of course, about Judas. The shock value of this statement hinges on an unlikely plot device, a small dish of dip, which drives home the point that Jesus was betrayed by one of his closest companions. We have to pay attention to the price, as I said, at which Jesus was sold. Just a little higher than that of the sale of Joseph by his brothers, 20 pieces of silver. As we all know in Genesis chapter 37, verse 20 to 28, thereabout. Like a slave, the price, if you read passages like Exodus chapter 21, verse 30, it is 30 pieces of silver was the price of a slave. So why Zachariah calls the amount a handsome price in Zechariah chapter 11, verse 13. This could be sarcasm. It is called considerable sum of money, according to Webb. Considerable sum of money, that type. Jesus was sold at a considerable price of money, 30 pieces of silver. Jesus was willing to humble himself, to offer himself up for the cross, to purchase what we could never afford, the only worthy price for our forgiveness in the eyes of our just and pure God. Judas sold Jesus for the price of a slave, as Jesus laid down his life as the ultimate gift to humanity. When you would not want anything to change, contrary to the original plan. One would always play the dumb, play the weakling, play the fool, even play the slave, so that all be perfectly accomplished. Isaiah helps us to bring this idea home when he writes, I offered my back to those who beat me, my cheek to those who pulled out my beard. I did not hide my face from mocking and spitting, because the sovereign Lord has me. I will not be disgraced. Therefore, I have set my face like flint, and I know I will not be put to shame. This is Isaiah speaking, chapter 50, verses 6 and 7. What does this tell us? Jesus knew that he did not come to save us through signs and wonders. He did not come to save us even through preaching. He came to save us ultimately through his suffering, death, and resurrection. Because John was preaching before Jesus came. The prophets were preaching before Jesus came. John was healing. The prophets were healing, doing signs and miracles. But what they could not do was to lay down their lives for humanity. Even though John was decapitated, John did not die for humanity. John died for his offense. In the eyes of Herod, he stepped on the foot of Herod by criticizing him, and he was sent to prison. Herodias demanded his head after Salome must have danced at the birthday of Herod, and the head of John the Baptist needed to fall. So John's death was not for the humanity's sake, but Jesus laid down his life. Now, knowing fully well that there's no other way than to die. So anything that will make this plan of God change, Jesus will do everything possible to make it work. That is why he could allow mortal men to touch him. Now, if I take you back to John's passion, as we are going to read it on Good Friday, the passion reserved for Good Friday. In the years A, B, and C, you can read Mark, Matthew, Luke, but good on Passion Sunday, that is Palm Sunday. But on Good Friday, we read exclusively from John. Now, when you go to that chapter 18 and 19, at a point in 18 where Jesus asked the soldiers, who are you looking for? They said, Jesus of Nazareth. He said, I am. It is me. The scripture says they moved back and fell. Which tells us that if it were to be something that goes with military might and power, nobody could lay hands on Jesus. Now, for you to touch a high tension wire without being electrocuted, we needed to disconnect the wire from the generating source. Jesus disconnected his body from the generating source of power. That was why it was possible for mere mortals to touch him and arrest him. Because that is the only way he can be crucified. And Paul says he stripped himself of all divinity, all equality with God. He took the place of a slave. So it is not all about kenosis or humility. He removed that divine power, because you cannot trap God. You cannot trap God. In Igbo's parlance, we say, Emechuzo osimpio. When you close the door, he goes out from a hole. Now, Jesus refused now to move out. He submits himself. It's no longer the time when they want to arrest him, he will sneak away. No. Now he wanted to remove those things that can cause them harm, those things that can prevent him from dying. He removed them and allowed man to arrest him. And that is in that point, at this point, that he could be sold. At this point that men can touch him, men can slap him, Pilate can question him, they can flog him, they can hold him, put in the crown of thorns, nail him. Even at this point he could die, because he had disconnected himself from that awful current that no man can behold and live, so that he could set us free. And that is why I want to end, friends, by citing Bernard of Clairvaux in his work on the Song of Songs number 1. He says, Many of those who are humiliated are not humble. Some react to humiliation with anger, others with patience, and others with freedom. The first are culpable, the next harmless, the last just. Let us ask God for the grace to hand over to Jesus everything, I say everything that we think bothers us, pains. I know most of us must have given him a challenge that God, I want these things to go down within these 40 days, and we are almost gone. We are on the 37th day. We are left with Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday to make it 40. And if you look around, those things that you said must go down are still there. Do not lose hope. They may still be there after Easter. Do not lose hope. They may still be there after Easter, after Pentecost. Those problems may still be there. But that doesn't mean that God has ignored you. Keep rolling. Because we are going to the point of understanding God as God that remains God amidst all odds. He remains God when you are crying. He remains God when you are happy. So trust him so that he does not see you as that man that acts like a dog that follows a pot-bellied man, that follows the man, because if the man does not vomit, he may definitely defecate. So do not follow God because he's a pot-bellied man that if he doesn't defecate, he will vomit something for you to pick up. Follow God because you are convinced that that way is the way of righteousness, and everything righteous pays now and there. May he bless us. Amen.